that they say, you know what, that's the fight system from Prince of Persia. And maybe then, you know, next year will be the one who's being emulated, like fingers crossed, right? So our fight system really focuses on the idea of a duel. It is the Prince and Elika fighting one enemy, and they collaborate together in really interesting ways. I mean, the little snippet that you see in the CG trailer is just like the tip of the iceberg in how these two people tag team effectively when fighting a single enemy. And you know, this gauntlet, this glove that I was talking earlier, again plays a role in combat because it gives the Prince the ability to physically interact with these enemies who are made out of the corruption that has infected the world, and that is supposed to, I mean, it would kill him if he touches them. But this gauntlet is the barrier, if you will. So suddenly, where, you know, these enemies would be death on touch, because he has this gauntlet, he can do these physical interactions with them, grabbing them, throwing them in the air, throwing them to the ground, just generally sort of manhandling them, if you will, that he simply wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So, as I said earlier, you know, it has, our Prince has connections, if you will, to the legacy of Prince of Persia, but we certainly think we are introducing more than enough new elements to acrobatics and combat to make him really stand out as like the next generation Prince. I mean, this guy is awesome.
Okay, now you've teased us twice. You spoke a little bit about Elika. Now we'd like to know a little bit more, but you know, as you've mentioned some other great games, supporting characters or the notion of having help within a game, it's been done. So what are you going to do to revolutionize the idea of a supporting character in an action-adventure game?
Sure, I mean, as you said, it's been done. And, you know, I say this not meaning to take anything away from the games that have done support characters before, because some of them are, like, amongst my favorite games of all time, but really it's never been done well. I mean, even the Sands of Time trilogy didn't do it very well, because Farah was purely scripted. She was really just a narrative element. So she helped the story, and, you know, we had little elements of gameplay, particularly in Sands of Time, but more or less she was a narrative device. And that to us was limiting. Other games have tried to take supporting characters and make them more gameplay. Resident Evil 4, one of my absolute favorite games of the last 3 years, has this character, Ashley. And, you know, Ashley is sort of integrated into the gameplay a little bit more than, for example, Farah was. But again, I felt Ashley was one of the sort of weaker links, and Capcom, you know, no disrespect, because again, it's an amazing game. But, you know, you feel like you're babysitting Ashley. Here you are, this like superhero who's like tearing through hordes of zombies, and, you know, every 5 minutes you've got to turn around and go and like help this girl who's crying in the corner because these zombies are attacking her. And it's like, it's kind of like a drag, you know? It's like, I want to feel cool all the time. That's why I play video games. So our intention with Elika is not that she is some maiden in distress who needs you to babysit her and protect her from the big, bad, scary guys. You are collaborating in this game. Now, she needs you because you're the star, you're the hero. She has magical abilities, but she doesn't have the sort of combat and acrobatic, you know, abilities on her own to be able to tackle this challenge alone. So you take center stage. The Prince is center stage, and Elika is the support character. But what we've done is given the AI just enough control of Elika to make sure that she's always in the right place at the right time. She's always following you, she's just behind you, close enough that you can feel her presence, you get that sensation that she's working with you, but not so close that she's going to get in the way. And she's not going to take negative initiative. She's never going to say, oh, I think I should go attack that enemy and jump out and kind of get thrown off of a cliff. Or, I think we should go this way, and you're trying to go this way, and she's getting lost, and you're having to backtrack in order to grab her and, you know, pull her with you. She's going to take enough, the AI controls her enough that she's always in the right place, as I said, but then it's in the player's hands to collaborate with her through basically the Elika button, which is a context-sensitive button whereby you press it, she'll intelligently figure out what sort of help are you asking for, and then she'll do it. If you're in acrobatics and you press the Elika button, she'll jump in and the two of you will collaboratively do an acrobatic move. If you're in combat and you press the Elika button, she'll jump in and the two of you will collaboratively do a combat attack, a combo if you will. If you're navigating the world and you're lost and you press the Elika button, she's going to help you find your way. If you're in the puzzle, if you're trying to solve a puzzle and you press the Elika button, she's going to help you in that as well. So we think that by creating this AI character who has sort of the narrative value of something like Farah, who of course is an interesting character with a strong storyline and a strong personality that interacts with the prince in a variety of ways, we're going to create a good story thanks to Elika, but through all of the gameplay decisions that we've made, we've effectively created a weapon that makes the player, the prince, that much cooler. The prince in the Sands of Time trilogy was awesome. The prince now, thanks to the collaboration with Elika, is super awesome. So, there we go.
All right, well, I hope we get to see and hear and learn more about the game mechanics in the near future. But one thing that also stood out in everything that you've released and what we've seen so far is that the art direction has greatly changed from the past Prince of Persia games. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we have a name for our art direction. We call it, well, we had to come up with a name for our art direction, really, because we felt we had created something unique. So we've given it the name Illustrative. And, you know, for us, there's sort of a slider, if you will. And on one end, you've got really realistic games. You've got, rather, very realistic visuals in a game. Call of Duty, or you know, even Assassin's Creed to a certain extent, is really going for that sense of realism. And on the other end of the scale, you've got like highly exaggerated cel-shaded games. You've got Okami, you've got Wind Waker, you've got those games that are much more cartoony. Which is not to say that one is better than the other. They both have their value, obviously, within the industry. We wanted to be somewhere in the middle. We wanted to have all of the detail and the granularity, if you will, of a very realistic game where you're looking at an object and it's not just like a big blob of color. You can see all of the little details on the pots and the pans that are littered around the world, or the window on the wall. I mean, there's a lot of granular detail in this world, but at the same time, it's stylized and unique enough to not just try and be a photo. And we took a very conscious decision to go in this direction with our artistic direction very early on in development. I mean, you know, almost from the beginning. Our artistic director sat down with JC, the creative director, and myself, and really said, you know, we have probably the best illustrators and concept artists in the industry working for us on Prince of Persia. I mean, some of the top talent in the world is attracted to this franchise because it really gives them an opportunity to like be really creative and come up with some fantastic worlds. And illustrators, you know, are often attracted to that opportunity. And in the past games, those illustrations had served as references for the 3D modeling team that would then sort of draw inspiration from that and make something completely different. And he said this time it would be so great if we could make a game that feels like you're playing one of those illustrations. So the camera just zooms in to the illustration and then you're playing the game. That would be amazing. Can we do that? And we've spent 2.5 years trying to figure out how to make that happen. So our illustrative artistic direction is really meant to give that sensation of playing in one of these highly detailed, fantastic illustrations, and thus the name Illustrative.
Okay, well, thank you. We have so many other questions, and I'm sure that we would love to ask them all. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to, but we hope to hear more in the near future, and thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much.